In the village of Amuocha, there lived two identical twins, Adan and Adana. Their mother, Mama Nkechi, often joked that the gods must have been laughing when they made the two girls, for even she, who had birthed them, sometimes mixed them up. Their father, Papa Emeka, would simply shrug and say, "If you scold one, you've scolded both. It saves time." The twins were not just identical in face but in mischief. If Adan stole a mango from Old Man Chukwu's tree, Adana would take two. If Adana pretended to be a spirit in the moonlit forest to scare the village boys, Adan would join in, howling like a ghost until the entire village was in an uproar. The elders often sighed, saying, "These girls will either bring great honor or great trouble to Amuocha." And trouble came the day Okiki, the wealthy trader from the neighboring village of Nkporo, arrived with a caravan of goods and a proposal for Adan's hand in marriage. Okiki was tall, with a deep voice that rumbled like distant thunder, and he wore robes so fine that even the village chief eyed them with envy. When he saw Adan fetching water at the stream, he was smitten, or so he thought. "Ah, such grace, such beauty," Okiki declared, pressing a hand to his chest. "I must marry her." But here was the problem. He had actually spoken to Adana, who had been pretending to be Adan for fun. And Adana, always the trickster, decided to play along. She batted her eyelashes and said, "Oh, Okiki, my heart flutters like a trapped bird at your words." Meanwhile, the real Adan, hearing of this proposal from the gossiping market women, was furious. "How dare my sister accept a proposal meant for me?" She fumed, stomping through the village, her wrapper tied so tightly in anger that it nearly ripped. And so began the great twin deception. Adan stormed to Okiki's camp and declared, "I am the true Adan. The one you spoke to was my wicked sister." Okiki, confused, looked between the two girls. "But, you look exactly the same." Adana, not to be outdone, clutched Okiki's arm and wailed, "No, my love. She is the imposter. Look into my eyes. Do you not see the truth?" Okiki, now sweating under the afternoon sun, turned to the village elders for help. The elders, just as confused, suggested a test. "Let both girls cook your favorite meal. The one who makes it best is the true Adan." Adan, who was an excellent cook, grinned confidently. Adana, who burned even boiled water, panicked. But being the trickster she was, she sneaked into the kitchen and switched her poorly cooked stew with Adan's perfect pot. When Okiki tasted them, he spat out Adana's salty, charred mess and declared, "This one is the imposter." Pointing to Adan, the village erupted in chaos. Mama Nkechi fainted. Papa Emeka started arguing with a goat, thinking it was one of the elders. The village drunk, Uncle Dyke, declared he could solve the mystery by having the twins wrestle. Whoever wins is the real one. The twins, annoyed, pushed him into a nearby ditch. Desperate, Okiki came up with another plan. "I will ask each of you a question only Adan would know." Adan smirked. "Ask me anything." Okiki nodded. "What did I say to you when we first met?" Adan opened her mouth, and froze. She hadn't been there. Adana, grinning, recited word for word what Okiki had said, adding a dramatic sigh for effect. Okiki, now thoroughly bewildered, nearly called off the wedding, until the village oracle, Agbala, stepped in. The old woman, her eyes milky with age but sharp with wisdom, chuckled. "Foolish man, the twins have played you like a drum. But there is a way to know." She whispered something to Okiki, who gasped. That night, as the village gathered for the final decision, Okiki stood before the twins and said, "I have made my choice. The real Adan is." He paused, then grabbed both their hands. "Both of you." The crowd gasped. "What?" Adan and Adana shrieked in unison. Mama Nkechi fainted again. Papa Emeka started arguing with a different goat. The village erupted into the loudest uproar Amuocha had ever seen. And as for the twins? They looked at each other, then at Okiki, then burst into laughter. "You can't handle one of us, let alone both." Adan snorted. Adana grinned. "But we'll let you try." The wedding day arrived in Amuocha, and the entire village was in an uproar. No one had ever heard of a man marrying twin sisters, let alone identical ones who switched places more often than the sun and moon traded shifts in the sky. Okiki, dressed in his finest red and gold embroidered agbada, stood at the center of the village square, sweating more than a yam thief caught by the masquerades. To his left stood Adan, her lips pressed tight in disapproval. To his right stood Adana, grinning like she had just tricked the gods themselves. The village chief, Obi, cleared his throat and adjusted his leopard skin cap. This marriage is, unusual, he admitted, scratching his beard. But if the bride, or brides, and groom agree, then who are we to stop them? The crowd murmured. Some women clutched their babies tighter, whispering that this would bring bad luck. The men, however, were torn between amusement and envy. Okiki was getting two beautiful wives at once. Just as the chief raised his staff to bless the union, a loud voice cut through the noise. "Stop this madness!" Everyone turned. There, at the edge of the crowd, stood a tall, fierce-looking woman wrapped in deep indigo fabric, her wrists jingling with copper bangles. Her eyes burned with fury. Okiki's face turned pale. "Nne Ngozi?" The woman stormed forward, pointing a finger at him. "So this is why you stopped visiting Nkpuro? You promised to marry Me." The crowd gasped. Adan and Adana turned slowly toward Okiki, their eyes narrowing in perfect, terrifying unison. "You, what?" Adan hissed. Adana cracked her knuckles. "Explain. Fast." Okiki swallowed hard. Well, you see?" Ngozi folded her arms. "This lying toad told me he was going to the market for kola nuts. Instead, he came here to marry not one, but two women." The village erupted. Mama Nkechi, who had just woken up from her earlier faint, took one look at the scene and collapsed again. Papa Emeka, now holding a confused chicken instead of a goat, muttered, "This is why I stick to farming." Adan grabbed Okiki's ear. "You have another woman?" Adana grabbed the other ear. "And you didn't even invite her to the wedding? Rude." Okiki yelped. "Wait, I can explain." Ngozi scoffed. "Oh, please. This man has more women than the river has fish." Just then, 3 more women pushed through the crowd, each one glaring at Okiki. "Remember me, husband?" snapped the first, a traitor from Aba. "You said I was your only wife," cried the second, a farmer's daughter from Ori. The third, a fierce-looking potter, simply rolled up her sleeves. "I just came to beat him." Silence. Then, chaos. Okiki yanked himself free and bolted, his fine agbada flapping behind him like a scared bird. The women gave chase, sticks and cooking spoons raised. The twins, after a moment of stunned silence, burst into laughter. "Well," Adan said, wiping tears from her eyes, "that's the shortest marriage in history." Adana nodded. "Should we help them catch him?" "Obviously." And with that, the twins joined the chase, their laughter ringing through Umuocha as the greatest wedding disaster unfolded.